Texas Money and Business, absolutely, and it's so good to have you right here on KEXB 620 AM, your business experts. My name is Ron Taylor, and Doug Parker with Ambitious Radio Network is here, and a great guest lined up today. Doug, it's good to see you. Welcome.
Ron, great to see you as well. And you did say KEXB 620 AM, right?
That's right, KEXB 620 AM, all new and business radio, and we're excited to be at this position, reaching more people at 620 AM, Doug, and so it's very exciting.
Yeah, I'm excited about it as well. You know, the problem is I had just gotten used to the other call letters and finally the numbers and letter combinations. So now I got to learn something all over
Yes, you do.
again. But anyway, hey, it's good to have a strong stream, and we are definitely a lot more easy to hear now on what is this thing called again?
620, yeah, you got it. It's 620 AM.
620 AM, KEXB, right?
Experts in business.
Experts in business. Fantastic. Okay, well, hey, as we get started, welcome. It's the Ambitious Radio Network, and my name is Doug Parker. We, today we've got a great guest, and, we've had several shows. We've been doing this for a few months now, and we're trying to get better and better as we go. We're going to talk about business, entrepreneurship, finance. Hopefully we'll have some interesting interviews and topics that you'll find that relates to your business, and you can take it back and apply it right when you get done listening to us. So all this is made possible by our sponsors, freeelectricitydfw.com, repairmycreditnow.com, and all3reports.com. That's all the number 3 reports with an S.com if you want a copy of your credit report. And, we're going to go over successful business principles, quotes, and again, interview people that are in the business world that are really doing it right now. And so today we've got James Kallman. James is with the Online Edge social media firm that specializes in search engine optimization and maximizing traffic from Facebook and generating leads for people that have a presence on the web. And I was talking to James in kind of one of the pre-show meetings, and he had mentioned one of his favorite quotes, and it's you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, by Jim Rohn. And I really have really liked that quote over the years, and I didn't know who had said it. So James, thanks so much for sending that over to me. So tell us a little bit about yourself, James. Welcome to the show.
Sure. Well, thanks for having me on, first of all, guys. I always like to share some business principles, how I got started, and a little bit about myself, because hopefully it'll encourage somebody else to step out and accomplish their dreams. But first of all, I'm a Michigan boy that grew up in Michigan in Cape Cod, Massachusetts, and got down here to Texas as quick as I can. Love the weather and love the people, and I love the pace of life.
Yeah, I tell you what, man, I didn't realize you spent time in Cape Cod. I knew you were from Michigan, and this time of the year, it's probably all right, but here in just 6 or 8 weeks, it gets a little chilly up there.
Yeah, to say the least. We went in July, as a matter of fact. We went to Cape Cod, and it was so cold the last day we were there, we were wearing sweaters on the beach.
Really?
Yeah.
That is ridiculous. One time I went to San Francisco, and I'm thinking I'm going to California. It was in June, and I had no idea. It was something like 45 or 50 degrees and foggy. It was miserable. I had no idea it was that kind of temperature out there.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yes, sir. So, you grew up in Massachusetts. You were born in Michigan, and then what prompted you to come down to Texas?
I actually came down here to study to be a pastor. I was young, ambitious, and thought, man, I'm gonna conquer the world. I'm gonna be a pastor, and I'm gonna get a bunch of people saved. And so I came down here for seminary school and started my internship, and really realized I did not want to be a pastor after I went through all my training.
I tell you what, and I know you personally, so I know you're a man of God and a good man, and I know that you have not changed what your goals are. You're still on fire doing things for the Lord, but working with your church and all kinds of other things. But it sounds like you kind of found a passion to do something that wasn't necessarily day to day in ministry. But now, where did you go to school? Was it Christ for the Nations? Is that where you went?
That's correct. Yep, I went there, and that's, as a matter of fact, that's where I met my wife.
Gotcha. Well, hey, can't go wrong there. Get you a good Christian woman for sure.
Yep.
So you went to school, and then that transition, you decided, hey, look, I want to do more of the business route. So you left the school there, and then tell us a little bit about, from a business perspective, what was kind of some of your first jobs that, going through school or getting out of school?
Sure. On my first job out of school, I became the marketing director for the Phoenix Midtown in downtown Dallas. And what I didn't realize at the time is they were trying to hang a failure on my neck because they needed a scapegoat.
Uh-oh.
What they didn't know was I was a pretty smart dude. So I took their property from a 72% occupancy and losing money to a 94% occupancy in a matter of 2 months. And the way I did that is I literally just went around to the different businesses in the telecom corridor back then and said, hey, I know you guys have consultants coming into the area and they're staying in hotels. Why don't we do executive leases with you guys, and we'll furnish the apartments. We'll have it set up to where somebody can come, stay for an extended period of time, and feel comfortable. And it went off like a hit. Everybody loved me. I turned into a hero. But when you turn into a hero, first job, all of a sudden you get real smart.
Right,
so,
right.
so yeah, I went from that. I jumped in, tried to start my own business with my wife immediately after that, but had no idea first thing about business, and failed the first time I went into business. After 3 months, I found myself desperate, and that I jumped into the car business.
Okay.
So that was my second real job was selling cars at Honda Cars in McKinney. I did that for several years and was pretty good at it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, so when you talk about failures, here's the one thing that I've found that's consistent with entrepreneurs.
Mm-hmm.
You very seldom does anyone have an overnight success. You have a bunch of failures that line up to your successes, and it may be in your current company, or it may be failing in other companies, and then finally having a success. And I forget the exact statistics. Somebody told me one time that like 76% of all statistics are made up right on the spot. But I think it was a number something like 90% of all small businesses fail within the first 5 years. And
Mm-hmm.
so, whenever I was starting, some of my businesses, that was one of the things that I really was on the lookout for was, hey, if 50% of them fail, kind of like you were saying, I feel like I'm a pretty bright guy. I work hard. I do, whatever it takes. But the other piece of that puzzle is there's a lot of successful people out there. There's things out of your control. And so I just figured I'm probably going to have to start 3 or 4 or 5 businesses if I'm going to really have one make it across the finish line and really have the kind of success that I'm looking for. So in that failure, was there anything specific? What type of business was it?
Well, it was actually it was a network marketing company that we got involved with, and we started a lead generation company that supported consultants. It was really, really good. We were generating leads and selling leads to folks and calling and making our own sales. But what ended up happening was they changed the payout structure to an as-earned structure. So instead of earning $30,000 that month, we ended up earning $3,000 a month, and we were leveraging ourselves. And I learned a big lesson in a single point of failure. And so now every time I look at any type of opportunity, I always look for what's the single point of failure that could potentially come up and bite me.
Sure. No, that makes perfect sense. And when you talk about success, I mean, when you're having success, and I've had this Achilles heel where you think that everything you touch is going to turn to gold, because it just is right now. But every season, has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And you've got to be prepared with multiple streams of income and kind of hedging what you've got going on. So I think that's very wise, that you're saying, that you've got, there's just dynamics that can change. And if you're living paycheck to paycheck in business, it's a lot different than living paycheck to paycheck as an individual.
Yep.
It's still stressful, but the bottom line is you can't go down to the bank and borrow 30 or 40 grand for this week's payroll, kind of a deal. So it's not like the payday lender. You can go down and get a couple $100 to get you by. So, we've got just a couple more minutes in this session. I know that you had mentioned that one of your favorite books to me was How to Win Friends and Influence People, right?
Yep.
Okay.
By Dale Carnegie.
Yeah, it's a great book. I've read it a couple times, but it's been several years. So tell me a little bit of why that's your favorite book and some of the things that you took out of it.
Well, sure. It actually goes back to I went through Dale Carnegie training as a young salesperson. I realized very quickly that I was only connecting with a small percentage of the people I talked to. And through the training, I realized that it takes a lot of skill. It takes a lot of development for somebody to be able to connect with more than one type of individual. So they recommended, it was Frank Starkey was my teacher. He said, you need to read How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. And it really helped me develop my skill set and connecting with people and making friends and being interested in the person before I'm interested in the dollar. And it just really revolutionized my life and my sales career because I approached everybody differently.
Yeah, I think that's great stuff. And we've sent over the years several people from our organizations to the Dale Carnegie training. Matter of fact, my son went through it, and it really is a great program. And you think of salespeople going through it, but I don't know about in your class, but I've seen in several of these classes over the years where you'll take someone that's a little bit more introverted and they're not so outspoken and run them through that program. And it really gives them some fundamentals on public speaking. And really, not that we're giving Dale Carnegie a plug or paying us or anything, but bottom line is I believe in it. It's a real deal. And it sounds like I didn't even know you'd been through the class, but it sounds like you're a believer in it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when they make you stand up in front of a class of people and act out, I'm a little teapot, and seriously, it changes it changes how you think about talking in front of people.
Yeah, I bet it does. Well, I'll tell you what, we're wrapping up this segment. I just want to kind of throw out there. I know that you are a Facebook expert. We're going to get into that here in a few minutes, but we do have a Facebook page now. So like us on Facebook, the Ambitious Radio Network. Remember, if you missed something on the show, we're going to put it on Facebook or on ambitiousradio.com. Try to get there SAP so you can go back and reference the books or the different things that we're talking about. Tune in after the break. We're going to be talking more to James about websites, search engine optimization, SEO, and everything else you'd ever want to know about websites right here on the Ambitious Radio Network.
Indeed, Texas Money and Business here on KEXB, Experts in Business. I'm Ron Taylor. It's good to have you here. Doug Parker with Ambitious Radio Network, and a great guest today, Doug.
Thanks, Ron. Thanks so much. At KEXB, I got to get that in my head. KEXB.
It's Experts in Business, 620 a.m. That's right.
Experts in Business. Well, I guess that's what I am. So
Indeed.
Here we go. So today we've got James Kallman on the show with us, and James is really, he is an expert in search engine optimization or SEO. And James, tell us a little bit about that. I mean, I hear that term thrown around a lot, but what exactly is SEO?
Sure. Well, there's a lot of myths about SEO and there's a lot of vagueness around my industry, but the bottom line is SEO is setting up your website and putting all the tools and all the proper pieces in place to get you ranked on the first page of Google to increase your relevancy. And so the bottom line is it's making your website tell the stories to the search engines so they know what you do.
Gotcha. Now, I've heard the terms black hat and white hat and all kinds of stuff thrown around, and I'm sure no different than in the industries that I'm in. There are guys that do stuff the right way, and there's guys that do stuff the wrong way, and it's just a matter of time. It may work temporarily if they're doing it the wrong way, but eventually Big Brother comes in and steps in and checks it out, and Google is as Big Brother as it gets. So I know you threw that out there. So talk to us a little bit about black hat, white hat. What does that really mean?
Sure. Well, so the industry, if you take a look, take a step back and just say, hey, SEO 101, your website has to be stronger than your competitor's website that you're trying to compete with on the first page of Google. Most search engine optimization companies, what they do is they find a hole in these search engines algorithms. Typically, they're targeting Google. And what they'll do is they'll exploit that hole until that hole's fixed. That's called black hat. The proper way to do it, or white hat, is the term that everybody coined in the industry. What that is basically making sure that all the pieces are in place that all the search engines are looking for coding wise, and then making sure that your website is stronger than your competitor's website on the first page of Google, and then making sure that you're telling the correct story to the search engine. So when they go through and they do the indexing of your website, that you place well and you place properly. It takes a little bit more work. It's a lot more in depth, and there's no shortcut to it. But when you do it right, it's fantastic.
So when you say stronger, I've also heard there like keywords and stuff like that, but I know that the technology has really changed over the years. And so we want to make sure our audience is, getting what they need and those types of things. So what is stronger? Can you go into depth at all on that, kind of what that means?
Absolutely. Well, there's some great tools out on the web that can give you information. Like one of them is called SiteLiner that we use. And you can plug in your competition's website in the first page of Google, and it'll tell you how many pages deep their website is. That is a huge indicator of how strong a website is. If you're a 20-page website and you're trying to get to the first page of Google and you're competing with a website that's 250 pages that are relevant, it's going to be extremely difficult for you to rank higher than that website. There's other factors that come into play, like coding. Obviously, you got to make sure that you've got all the pieces in place on your website that the search engines are looking for. Your robots, your site maps, your metadata, your alt image tags, all that nerdy stuff that we all talk about. You have to have all that into place. And if your competitor's website's a little bit stronger than yours, but their coding is messed up, and you can get all your coding set up properly, then you can have an advantage over them. But the strength of a website, there's a lot of different factors that go into it. But the biggest piece is the amount of pages on the website, and also the amount of traffic driven to the website, and then the coding that's attached to the website in the back end.
Gotcha. So pages, when we're talking about that, so that's relevant content. For instance, the Ambitious Radio Network. So we started this a few months ago. We've got ambitiousradio.com is our website, and it's a relatively new site, so 3 months old. Now, I was actually just looking at it today, and basically it wasn't showing up on any search engine. So I'm thinking, when is this thing ever going to get on there? I'm doing stuff. Ambitious Radio, I'm Googling it, and I put in ambitiousradio.com, and nothing even pulls up at first. And I'm wondering when it's going to hit. So yesterday, I plug it in, and I realized that something happened. Something has changed. And I don't know what, but now there's the iTunes is on there for the page that's directed towards that. We've got the actual page itself. There's a listen page that's now showing up. So talk a little bit about that. When you've got a new, brand new website, is there any standard amount of time before it starts typically showing up in the search engines? And if so, is there any way to expedite that process?
Well, there's not really a way where you can expedite it. You can make sure that you tell the search engines to come back as soon as possible with your robots TXT. But basically, what happened to you, I know exactly what happened, is your website was probably indexed the first time, and they just, new website, okay, we're not going to put them on the first page. They came back, indexed you the second time, said, okay, they're still there, not much has changed, they've added to it. And they came back and they indexed you again, and they said, okay, this is more relevant, so now we need to put them in a good position. For a new website, we typically say 60 to 90 days till you start to see your first placement on the first page of Google, Yahoo, and Bing. A great way to tell when the last time your website was indexed is if you go to your homepage, copy the URL, and then put info : and then put your, in the Google search bar, put info : and then put your paste URL with the HTTP and everything in front of it, and it'll tell you the last time your website was indexed.
Okay, that's pretty cool. That's relevant. So let's go over it again. So you copy your URL from your website. You go to Google, you type in info : and then just paste that in there, and then that'll tell you the last time that Google looked at your website.
Correct. Yep. And then just to make sure that all of your pages are actually being seen, you can put site : and the same URL, and it should pull up every single page that is on that website. So if your website's 5 pages deep, it'll say 5 results. If you've got 120, it'll say 120 results.
Oh, that's cool. So that's pretty relevant information. Now, I just did that while we were sitting here, and lo and behold, there it is. And now, it doesn't tell me what the date is or anything. I don't see that on here, but I'm just looking.
There should be a cache or a index information, the first link there in that record. When you click on it, it'll take you to your website with a little bar on the top that has their indexing info.
Gotcha. As a Google cache or something. Cool. So that's really interesting. Now, you mentioned like robots.txt, and we're not going to dive too deep into that. But bottom line is, it sounds like there's a bunch of technical stuff that you can do some things on your own, but it also sounds like there are really things that are, unless you're really technical and into that kind of stuff, if you really want to be ranked on Google, you probably want to hire a professional to help you out a little bit. But I mean, is this stuff that you really can do on your own, or really is it like you can build your own house, but nobody ever does it?
Yeah. I mean, you could become an expert in it by training yourself, learning, and getting the right information. The problem is there's so much bad information out there, what's good and what's bad. So I'm actually fortunate. I've got a real good team of people that does the work for me. But if you're in an industry that is hyper competitive, it's a lot harder, and you can't do that on your own. And the way you tell how competitive an industry is if you go to your main search term and you type in that search term in Google, it'll say X amount of results in X amount of time. So if you've got over 300,000 competing pages in Google that show up for that key search term, if you're under that 300 threshold, there's tools in WordPress that you can plug in that'll get you some relevant placement a little bit.
Okay.
And you can kind of get started that way. You'll never go the full mile, but you'll at least start the race that way. If you're over that 300,000 mark, competing pages in Google, you're going to have a really hard time getting there unless you get really lucky or you've got somebody who really knows what they're doing.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Well, and one thing I've seen about entrepreneurs, when you first start your business, a lot of guys do a lot of stuff themselves. DIY is kind of their middle name.
Mm-hmm.
And, you reach a point as an entrepreneur where you got to start focusing on, what it is that you are really truly gifted at, and then have a team around you to do the things that you're not so good at or that you don't have time for. And I catch myself, and over the years, I've had it happen over and over and over again. And I realize I've got to get somebody to do these things. And every year I'm evaluating my goals and I look at them, I say, what are the things that only Doug Parker can do? And what are the things that I can delegate to someone else? So delegate and elevate. And it sounds to me like, like I said, unless you're just a code writer or something, you're probably far better served to, get a professional to help out because, it's a very rapid changing deal. And I hear about all these different Google updates, and we can get into that later, but Google Panda or whatever the current top secret word is.
Mm-hmm.
So what we'll do is we'll get into a little bit more of that as we wrap up this segment. In the next segment, we're going to be talking about entrepreneurship, James' relationships with other entrepreneurs, their fears, things that he's gone through, and much more right here on the Ambitious Radio Network.
So good to have you here on the show today. Texas Money and Business and our friend Doug Parker with Ambitious Radio Network. A great guest as always, Doug. It's good to have you here.
Hey, great to be here. And again, these new callers, KEXB, Experts in Business, 6:20 a.m. It's a new signal, but the same great content. And we're so happy to be on this new stream. It's got a lot more power at nighttime. During the daytime, it's being be heard all over the DFW Metroplex. So it's fantastic to have it. A little bit something to get used to, but you know what they say, out of change comes chaos, and then out of chaos comes order. So it's a little chaotic, but hey, we're getting it figured out. So we've got James Kallman here with us with Online Edge. He is an expert as it relates to websites and content on websites, Facebook, generating leads, those kinds of things. And so I hear a lot of questions from people from time to time that they've got a website, but it may be just like an online brochure where they are personally, hey, go check out my website, go to whatever.com and see what we have to offer. But what James really specializes in is when you've got that website sitting out there, organically generating traffic or having ads on Facebook. And, one of the things that I've learned over the years is that stuff you see on Facebook, it is highly targeted. They know your age, whether you're male, female, whether you went to college or not, what kind of household you live in, how much income. It's crazy what they can do. But James, tell us a little bit. You're an entrepreneur. I've known you for, over a decade. And as long as I've known you, you've kind of been an entrepreneurial guy. Even if you're working for someone, you always got something else going. But what made you really finally decide to jump out there, do your own company, and just make it happen?
Well, I'll tell you the exact moment I decided to go back out on my own again. I was in corporate America working for a large company, and I had a huge deal that was ready to close. It would have been a life-changing deal. And the manager decided, hey, I want this deal to be my deal. So he jumped in, and of course he blew it up. He had no relationship and just blew the deal up. So I called the company back that was going to sign on with us, and I said, hey, what happened? And they said, well, we were really just looking for just a little bit extra to drag this deal across the line, and we spoke to so-and-so, and man, he's just an idiot. We'll never do business with your company as long as he's working there. And I was like, whoa, okay. So, I took a step back, hung up the call. I went into my manager's office and said, hey, we had that deal wrapped up. We were very close. But he said he won't do any business because of what you said to him. What did you say? He said, hey, close the door. I said, okay. So I closed the door, and he sits back in his chair, puts his hands behind his head like he's superior to me. And he says, You know what your problem is, James? I said, no, sir, I don't know what my problem is. He goes, you don't have the right keys to be successful in this world.
Mm.
And I looked at him and I just was flabbergasted. I didn't know what to say. And he goes, do you have anything to say about that? I said, no, sir. I said, my mom taught me well that if I don't have anything nice to say, just to keep my mouth shut. And he goes, well, I think this conversation's done. I said, I think you're right. So that day, I didn't know what I wanted to do yet, but I left knowing I couldn't allow somebody else to be in charge of my destiny like that. So, like you mentioned earlier, I'm involved with my church, and we were a new church at the time, and we were not growing. We only had 3 or 4 families that were coming to the church, and one of our elders, he's an executive at a large ad agency. He said, hey, why don't we do something real drastic here? Why don't we take our whole advertising budget and put it into Facebook? And we had nothing to lose. So we're like, okay, sure. So we did that. 2 months later, our church was about 150 people strong and growing every week. And I was in charge of greeting. People would come in the door. Hey, how did you hear about us? Well, we saw your advertisement on Facebook. We saw that so-and-so goes here on Facebook. And our growth was just massive, and it was all coming through our connections on Facebook that we were making. So at that moment, I knew there's a business here. We could serve small businesses and help them generate business by having a good social campaign. Immediately, what I did is I started putting together a little team of people who just needed a little bit of extra cash on the side. Went out and got a few clients that I was friends with. So I told them, hey, if this works, you can pay me. If not, it was a fun ride. We tested out about 5 different verticals, realized that the brick and mortar locations were the easiest low-hanging fruit. And so I decided at that point, hey, I've got a business. I'm leaving corporate America.
Man, that's crazy. It's funny that you say the part about the boss said you didn't have what it takes. I was talking to one of my business partners actually last week on last Tuesday, and his first cousin is Chris Tomlin, the Christian singer.
Mm-hmm.
And, he's just a good old East Texas boy, born in Grand Sling, Texas, out east here. And when he went to Tyler Junior College, he was telling me that he had tried out for something in the choir or something at the college. And the person told him kind of the same thing, man, you don't have the chops for this. You're not seriously like you're not a music major, are you? And, now the guy's the, number one selling, artist ever in history or something, in Christian music. So, it's funny how the world has a way of kind of kicking people when they're down, especially. And then, it's not about what you're doing when you're down. It's about what you do, when you get up. And I've got a thing on my wall here on Abraham Lincoln and perseverance and all the failures. And we'll probably go over that one of these days, but it lists this probably 10 or 12 failures that are significant: bankruptcy, loss of a wife. I think it may be even a divorce, lost the Senate race, lost this, lost that, lost a business. And then in the end, it talks about, and it doesn't say what his name is till the end. And it says, then he signed his name, as the president of the United States, Abraham Lincoln. And after significant failure, seemingly his whole life. So it's interesting how entrepreneurs, I don't think anybody when they're a kid grows up and says, hey, when I grow up, I want to be an entrepreneur. That doesn't happen. It's normally through some kind of situation where they're tired of dealing with a boss, tired of, some kind of situation where they can't get stuff handled the way they want to handle it or whatever, and they just put something together. So we got a couple minutes left here, and let's talk a little bit about fears you might have. I mean, I get the thing getting upset. I get somebody, doing something to do you wrong. And you're like, I am done. I'm out. But there's a difference between I'm done, I'm out, I quit, I'm going to go get another job, and I'm done, I'm out, and I'm going to go start this thing and conquer the world. So what fears did you have?
Well, they were big fears. Since I'd already lost a business previously, it was only my wife and I when our business failed the first time. Now I had 2 kids that were small in diapers, and I had only saved about 3 or 4 months worth of rent for myself and my family. So I had to replace my income in 3 months, or I was going to have to go back and get a job. That was the bottom line financially, because I'm feeding a wife and 2 kids. So my biggest fear was just failure in general, that I wasn't going to be able to communicate the value of my service to the point where people would say, yeah, I want to go with you, James. This is great. And I almost realized that fear. I left corporate America in October. And I remember my wife and I having a conversation January 1st. She said, "Hey, James, when are you going to bring home some money? You know, our bank accounts are starting to get low."
Mm-hmm.
I said, "Baby, give me 2 weeks. Give me 2 weeks. I've got a healthy pipeline." And man, I don't think I slept that 2 weeks. I mean, I was making phone calls, sending emails, and finally, at the 16th of January, 2011, I left the house just feeling defeated, but I had 4 meetings set up that day. I had met with 3 of the companies previously a couple of times. All 4 of those companies signed up with me on the spot that day.
Man, that is amazing. That really is. You know, it kind of reminds me of my story. You know, I had done several entrepreneurial things, but they always were supplemental to my core business. And in 2003, I really felt like I wanted to jump out and do my own business full time. However, I was making about, I don't know, 15 grand a month. And it was a situation where, you know, whatever it was, 20, 26, 27 years old, you know, I'm not a college grad or anything. That was a fantastic living. And I'd been, you know, at this particular place for 6 years. I was maxed out on all the benefits. And one Saturday afternoon, my boss said something crazy. And I was like, I'm out. I ain't doing this no more. And I went home, and my wife's like, "What are you doing home? It's in the you know, on a Saturday." I was like, "I'm pretty sure I just quit." She's like, "What? What are we gonna do for insurance? What are we gonna do for this?" I'm like, I don't know. We'll figure it out. And then, you know, the difference between men and women is different. You know, they like the comfort of consistency, and they're not hunters. They're more the gatherers. You know, naturally. So there are obviously several women out there that are probably better hunters than I am. But bottom line is, my wife was more the gatherer type, and she was not liking what I was saying. And I made the same commitment to her. I said, "Hey, look, if I can't make at least X amount of dollars in the next 90 days, I'll go back into the car business, and we'll go from there. But it's really a rough business on your family with all the hours and all those kinds of things. And so, but by God's grace, for whatever reason, he had it out for me to have a little bit of success, and never looked back. Had a couple good years and went on a good run. Was able to have an Inc. 500 company, one of the fastest growing privately held companies in America, and all that out of somebody really just making me mad one day and saying, "I'm done with this." And so it sounds like your story is very similar to that, and you've got a very successful business as well. We've got about a minute or two here, so if you could throw out for me one thing real quick. If you had one piece of advice for a new entrepreneur, what would you tell them?
Well, that's an easy one. Make sure you can tell the difference between what's urgent and what's not. Delegate the non-urgent tasks, and you handle the urgent tasks at first.
Man, that is fantastic advice. It really, really is. So appreciate that. We got a couple things we're going to go over here in just a few minutes with James. He's got a very interesting story, some of the business things that he's done over the years. We'll get into that right here on the Ambitious Radio Network, KEXP, Experts in Business, 620 AM.
It is Texas Money and Business. So good to have you here on the show today. And a great show with our host, Doug Parker, with the Ambitious Radio Network. Doug, it's all yours, my friend.
Well, thanks so much. And yeah, Ambitious Radio Network. If you miss anything on the show, go to ambitiousradio.com or like us on Facebook, The Ambitious Radio Network. Also, if you missed the show or you're catching the tail end of it and you want to hear the whole show, go to the website. We've got the guests on there, and we've also got a podcast on iTunes that you can tune into. So we're trying to get more technologically advanced here as we continue to try to get better at this stuff. So as we kind of start wrapping up here, there's a lot of different things that I'm sure people are asking, wondering about this, website. This, you said TXT dot whatever, robots and all this kind of stuff. But you gave us some advice a minute ago that was fantastic, for entrepreneurs as urgent, not urgent, and delegate the not urgent. But one other question I've got for you is that if James Kallman today could go back and talk to the guy 10 years ago, James Kallman, what would you tell yourself if you could do that?
Spend more time with your kids. That's when I was younger, I have my 2 little boys who are now 9 and 10. When they were 3 and 4, I didn't spend very much time with them. And looking back, I'm never going to get those years back.
Man,
So today, I spend as much time as I can with my family. And so 10 years ago, I wish I would have gone back and told myself, hey, you've got a new little baby. You need to spend every moment you can with this child.
man, that's fantastic. I'm a couple steps down the aisle from you on that one. You know, I've got a 19, or she'll be 19 in a couple weeks, and a 20-year-old. And so my kids are 21 months apart, and the very same thing. And here's the thing: at some point, your kids will want to spend less time with you.
Yeah.
So that window starts to close, and dad's not, cool dad anymore. It's like, oh my goodness, what do you want? And I heard that advice before, and it's great to continue to have it reinforced, because your window for influence on your children starts to close, and you really want to have your fingerprints on it. So I think a lot of the problems in this world today is because of the lack of fathers interaction with their children. And so that's great advice. Love it, love it, love it. James, let me ask you this: how much sleep do you get at night? I mean, I heard you say the other day that whenever you left your 9 to 5, that you almost didn't sleep for a month. But on now that you've got it all under control and figured out, what's an average night look like for you?
I need 7.5 to 8 hours of sleep to function properly.
Yeah,
So,
me and you both. Me and you
yeah.
both. So do you go to bed like the same time every night and get up at the same time?
Uh, I would like to say yes because that's more healthy, but no.
Gotcha. Well, so let me ask you, as far as mentoring goes, are there any people that are currently mentoring you, or anybody, CEOs, things along those lines, that you're currently following?
I'm actually really fortunate. I've got some really good people around me that are business leaders that I look up to and that I'm in personal relationship with. One of the ones I spend the most time with in a mentoring relationship, his name's Mike Rubin. He owns a business brokerage firm, and when you're in business, you want to know, what does the end game really look like? What do you need to know now to be successful in 10 years? And he has worked closely with so many businesses. He's just a huge wealth of knowledge. And on top of that, he used to be a fantastic sales coach. We've developed a really strong friendship over the last 12 years. And it's even to the point to where, man, if I have a bad week or I have a bad day, man, I can call him up and he'll just say, hey, let's stop, let's pray right now. So he's, I would say, probably the closest mentor I have right now. But as far as following CEOs, man, I love Shark Tank.
Okay.
I love watching Shark Tank. I love watching all those guys negotiate, and I love watching. My favorite one on there is Lori Grenier. I think she's a stand-up person, and man, everything she touches seems to turn to gold.
Have you seen that West Texas something or another?
Oh yeah, West Texas Investors Club. That's another one I'm addicted to. I love that show.
Man,
Those kids are crazy.
I can't get into that, man. They're I don't know, man. They're a little less sophisticated, but they're sharp. But there's something different about them. Maybe I hadn't spent enough time in it. So you recommend I go watch that one, huh?
Yeah, watch a few episodes because they're crazy. That's what I like about it. They're just nuts.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw that. So what do you do to recharge?
Man, I love golf. I play golf as much as I can. I used to play quite a bit. Now I get out about once a week to play golf. Just a few hours with a couple of buddies, and just hang out, just take in the scenery and try to score a low.
Yeah, absolutely. What about vacations? Are you a guy that actually takes a vacation and unplugs?
I do. I take 2 to 3 vacations a year. One with my family, one with my parents and brothers and sisters, and then one I go on with my wife and myself. We love to go to Cabo. It's our favorite location. As a matter of fact, we'd love to move to Cabo in the next several years if Lord willing. It's just a beautiful place, slower pace of life, and God, it's just beautiful.
Yeah, I've never been to Cabo, man. I like Costa Rica, but the same thing. It's at
Hmm.
slower pace, and guys like you and I, it's hard to slow down, and for whatever reason, I seem to be able to slow down a little bit. Now, let me ask you this: when you go on vacation, do you really check out and like turn off the phone, turn off the email? I'm gone. Don't talk to me for 9 or 10 days, or are you carving out a little bit of time every day to catch up with the necessary stuff?
On 2 of the vacations, absolutely. When I'm with my wife or it's with my kids, yes, I might, if I've got something going on, I might check my email once or twice during the week, but I am gone. I just do not take phone calls. I don't respond quickly to anything. But when I'm on my vacation with my brothers, sisters, and my mom and dad, yeah, I'll work on that vacation if I have to. It's more of everybody's moving around. It's not a very relaxing vacation.
Yeah, no, I hear you on that, and that's something I've got to work on for sure. That's a tough one, is really unplugging, making sure, delegating and those kinds of things is good to do. And obviously, I mean, if you can't forward somebody an email or whatever, then you're not delegating very well. So, one of the things that I definitely want to do is to thank you, James, for taking time out of your busy schedule as an entrepreneur to spend with us, talk to us about your story, talk to us about some of the things that you're doing in your business. If someone wanted to get in touch with you, they've got a question on a website or how to generate leads or whatever, how would they get a hold of you?
Sure. Go to youronlineedge.com, and you can reach out to us directly from there. Myself or one of my team members will get in contact with you, and we'll set up a meeting.
Cool. Well, hey, we've got a couple minutes left. And, one of the things I was talking to someone today, they said, hey, look, Doug, you got all this knowledge on credit and you don't really talk about it a lot. It's more entrepreneurs. So throw a little bit of tips in there that has to do with credit. So I'm going to do that real quick. This week's tip, we're going to talk about, when you go to Target, when you go to a lot of these places, they'll give you 10% off whenever you apply. I don't do a whole lot of shopping at Target, but my family does. But one of the things that I tell clients and others is that, hey, if you're going down and spending $100,000 on something and they're going to give you 10% off, well, great, save yourself $10,000. But most of the time at Walmart, Target, whatever the case is, you're probably not going to spend that kind of money. It's maybe a couple $100, $200-300. So you might save $20-30. Every time there's an inquiry on your credit report, it negatively impacts your scores, and a new account will do the same thing. And it also gives you a piddly little, $300, $400, $500 card that more than likely it's going to be close to being maxed out, and that's another area that hurts your credit score. So I really don't recommend doing that. Put everything on a Visa, MasterCard. Pay it off every single month if you can. If you can't do that, never have a balance over 30%. So on a $10,000 card, never over $3,000 balance at any point during the month, and that will help you to keep your credit scores high. Again, this is Doug Parker with the Ambitious Radio Network. We couldn't do it without our sponsors, freeelectricitydfw.com. All three reports, that's all the number 3 reports with an S.com, and repairmycreditnow.com. Tune in Wednesdays for Texas Money and Business from 10 to 11 right here on 620 AM KEXB. Experts in Business, the Ambitious Radio Network. Next week, we'll be visiting with Mary Almuedo, and she's a perfect example of motivation in motion. She's in the direct sales industry, has 8 years of experience, and is a top income earner in one of the fastest growing companies in American history, Ambit Energy. Remember, you can make money or you can make excuses, but you cannot make both. Go out there and be ambitious.